Tea Time with Tea, Volume 2. Chat, viewers, friends. Can't be on here with no crusty lips. I've had a lot on my heart. I've had a lot on my heart, a lot on my mind. And I've been very quiet about things because sometimes I think silence is very necessary. I think giving yourself space is necessary. I'm like, people joke a lot about being a crash out and like a retired crash out and yada 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 yada. Like, to be a crash out, what does that actually mean? Let's Google it. What does it mean to be a crash out? Urban Dictionary says to go insane or to do something stupid. For example, one time when I was in high school, I was in the brink of a breakup, and this girl was in cahoots with this guy. She had pressed an issue. She said she could be my ass. And at that point, it wasn't about old boy anymore. It was about the fact that she said she could be my ass. So I knew where she was at. I pulled up on her, and her friend drove off. And so I chased them on the highway, 9 highway in Parkville, or whatever highway that is. I chased 2 girls in 2 separate cars because she said that she was going to beat my ass. I wanted to see it. Let's see it. Beat my ass. Please, pull up. I'm threatened. That was my logic back then. I'm pressing the issue. And I chased these girls in my car. So, to go insane or do something stupid, that's just an example. I could go down the rabbit hole of different things. Not this fucking mountain on my chin. That's from stress. Anyways, I could go down the list, but that's like always the most prominent of like, I really don't give a fuck at my core. And as I've gotten older, I've obviously learned like, you can't behave like that, you know? Like, because I don't have bail money available, right? Like, it's not like I'm not a silver spoon child where like I'm just gonna be able to like get away with things, you know, while some people in their lives are able to. So obviously have learned to nestle that, right? So whenever I say that like I'm very similar to Naruto, like I feel like I have a tailed beast inside of me, and the Nine Tails really wants to just spaz the fuck out, but he's locked away, and I'm the emotional neurotic simp on the outside that's like just trying to figure out what the fuck is going on. Especially when we're talking about that oh my gosh, when we're talking about that comparison of Naruto, right? For all of my anime homies out there, you get it. Like he is the black sheep. He's the one that's like outcasted. Like in my experience, I've always felt like I'm the third friend. Like, what's it like to have a singular best friend? That's just not my experience, you know? And that's cool. I have friendships, people in my life that I love dearly. But it's always, in my experience, it's always been a give more than you receive. And in fellowship with people, in life, you know, as a Christian, it's kind of like a fundamental basis of being somebody that operates out of love, operates out of giving, and it's an unconditional sense, right? I was listening to a sermon today, and it was talking about what's not fair. It was talking about how... he was talking about the parable in Matthew 20 of the workers in the vineyard, right? You have your 6 a.m.er, and then you have your 5 p.m.er. The 6 a.m.er essentially shows up early, knows that, like, I'm here to work, I'm giving it my all. You see me the way I see myself, as the person that works hard, gives it their all, is better than that next person that isn't doing that. You know, you go down that rabbit hole of entitlement, one should say. And then you have the 5 p.m.er who's just so, so, so grateful for the opportunity to um to work or to achieve that thing or to contribute or whatever it is, right? You just have there's two sides of that spectrum, the entitled and the grateful. And in my experience, I've mostly found myself in the 5 p.m.er group. Very grateful, center myself in gratitude as I've gotten older, right? We're not talking about crash out 18-year-old, 17-year-old, 16-year-old. We're talking about adult, aware, conscious, right? And I'm still growing. I'm not perfect, but I've found myself and I've recognized myself to be more on that 5 p.m.er side. I'll drop the link so you guys can actually go check it out. Robert Madu, he is the pastor at Social Dallas, which I need to go whenever I'm here. But it's a great sermon. Shout out Naomi for sending me this because it like came at perfect timing, and I pushed off listening to it, and listening to it today is like perfect for what I needed to hear. I have found myself leaving my last job, becoming that 6 a.m.er person, that entitled person. And when I say entitled, it's entitled to reciprocation of energy. It's entitlement to feeling like I'm not being poured into the way I poured in. And this sermon really helped me understand, like, part of my fundamental being is unconditional love, unconditional genuine being, unconditional authenticity, whereas some people don't operate that way. You know, one of my friends actually, he made a comment today about how he thought one of my compliments that I gave him was surface level. And I was like, damn, that's fucked up, because I thought that, like, it's not even I believe that I do live in truth and I operate authentically, but when you're surrounded for a long time, you don't even realize that you're in it, but around people who actually don't operate unconditionally, they only operate under conditions, they operate under me versus you or us versus them, instead of we're all, figuring this out. It kind of let off a light bulb in my brain of, like, talking about the importance of being just unconditional. And as a friend, as family, as a coworker, like, obviously you have to have boundaries, but I think when you can center yourself in gratitude for where you're at, who you're around, what you have, what you don't have, where you're going, it makes being unconditional seemingly less daunting, because it can be a hard thing whenever you're always a giver, right? And, like, the people who get me, I was gonna write down some things I wanted to talk about, but, like, I'm just gonna but yeah, so, like, those who give unconditionally and they do it without expectation for anything back, like, sometimes you weigh a heavy burden when that energy isn't reciprocated. And for so long, like, to sacrifice so much because I believed in what I was doing, and I know what is being done is gonna, like, what is being worked towards is gonna happen. Like, I don't have doubt in that, but I had to wake up and realize, like, I wasn't in alignment with what was going on and who I was around. And, as a woman in male workspaces, male-dominated male workspaces, sometimes you kind of lose, it can be easy to lose sight of what it is actually that you're doing, because sometimes seeds get planting into your brain of what you should be wanting. And, like, yes, I should want more for myself, obviously. I should want, financial freedom to take care of the people I love, yada, 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 yada. But, like, at one point I just realized, like, what am I actually really doing this for? Because at one point I sacrificed my time. I got into a very big argument with my sister. Didn't talk for almost a year. I lost very close friends, at least the connection with those close friends, because of how much I was working. And at the time, obviously, I'm grateful for it because I'm able to learn, like, obviously who is real along the way and who isn't. And even though I was distanced because of my commitment to my work and, like, what I was focusing on in my own personal goals, over time I have come to realize and learn, like, the real ones stayed down, even if like I at the time didn't feel that presence, because now, you know, I could have done a lot better of like being accountable for my lack of investment in friendships and stuff. But I also like was told you're not always like you're not grinded out, grind culture. You're not going to have time for friends, you're not going to have time, you're not going to have time, you're not going to have time. And like, yes, that's true. But I've also realized if I'm going to suffer working towards something, I'm gonna just fucking do it for my own goal. I'm not gonna do it chasing somebody else's blueprint. Like, yes, actually, the easy thing is sacrificing yourself for a blueprint that's already laid out instead of like paving your own path. And that's what I did and what I chose to do after leaving. And the unfortunate part is, in my experience, what I had witnessed for that reciprocation I yearned for had been given and shared with other people, other women. That list is very small. I found myself kind of being like, why not me? You know? And so that's when that 6 a.m.er comes in. That entitlement mindset of like, I was up at 3 a.m. doing all of the shit one time. Like, all of the shipment, all of inventory, whatever. Out of sacrifice and out of like, this is part of the game. You know, business ownership, right? Didn't complain once. I'd get looked at like I was doing something wrong for trying to do the things I was told would help progress me forward without being properly taught how to actually do that thing. And so now I'm perplexed as to what I'm actually supposed to do. So now I'm also mind-fucking myself. Oh my God, I'm getting frazzled. That 6 a.m.er in me, like, I could list out all the receipts of what I sacrificed, what I did, how I didn't complain, or I'd harbor subtle complaints and never express it. And that's what the 6 a.m.er does. Like, they don't necessarily always outwardly, like, talk about it, but they'll, like, scoff, or they'll side-eye, or they'll see what's happening and they don't say anything. Or they don't find themselves grateful and ground themselves in gratitude for that position, you know? And I think these were little, like, paper cuts over time that led to the big bleed and where I'm at, or had been, upon leaving. That unconditional belief that I had in, obviously, yes, what we were working towards, but also, like, the friendships and, like, the relationships I thought I had with people, to only turn out after leaving and no longer being on that same sideline. And it's not like I was on an opposite sideline. It wasn't, now I'm opposed. I'm now actually just spectating. Like, I'm getting tomatoes thrown at, it felt like, this wasn't actually happening, but it felt like I had tomatoes thrown at me in the crowd. Like, what? That's kind of fucking actually crazy, bro. Like, I don't know. It's hard for me to even think about this and talk about this because, like, people are going to hear this and they're going to be like, damn, she's tweaking out. She's tripping. But some people might actually hear this and be like, maybe she's not. I'm sorry. It's hard for me to collect these words because I know people are going to see this. And maybe they don't. Maybe they don't give a fuck to actually listen because that's just their nature. Conditional. But I really don't. I grew up with white friends. I grew up with black friends. I grew up with Asian friends. I grew up with all the melting pot. Like, so, like, really when it comes down to it, color, I don't see it like that. However, being a brown girl, in a not brown space, you peep things. Do I think behaviors were, and I could joke, you know, the token black girl, the token brown girl, you know, whatever, like, that's not actually the reality. But also in my experience, when I see people that leave who aren't in my shoes being treated or being given energy that I fully anticipated being and receiving when I did, and not to receive it, like, I'd be crazy to not look at it like that. In the sense of, I don't think it's intentional, but it is hurtful. It makes a person go crazy. It makes a person think like, what did I do wrong? Where did I go wrong? I was going fucking crazy trying my best to perform. And I don't mean perform like show face, but I mean like execute in ways I wasn't even motherfucking taught. In ways that I wasn't shown, I wasn't even trusted to make decisions, or I wasn't given the green light to make decisions that my colleagues, male colleagues, were given. Sheesh. I'm not gonna get fired up about this because it's not worth it. But I want women out there to know. The reality is, we are women in a man's world. Whether you want to fucking admit it or not, whether you think that it is, whether you think it isn't, sorry, sweetie. We are women in a man's world. And you can play the game. And when I say play the game, you can ignore your intuition. You can act out of pocket. You emotionally respond all the time. Or you can sit back and really think about how things operate. Now, I, for a long time, operated in my masculine. I, for a long time, operated with parts of me that do very well in high pressure grind culture spaces. That part of me also hated me. Like, my relationship suffered. Now, my side quest suffered because what I talked about, I didn't actually execute on in the sense of my actions. What I wanted to be as a woman and as a partner, it felt out of reach because I only operated in my masculine. Very assertive, very direct, like very go, go, go. Very just grind. And like, when I go to sleep at night and I visualize what I want out of my life, it is me frolicking in a field of flowers and coming home to my cottage, like to my children running around, and my husband coming home from his work day to dinner made in a clean house. Like, that's genuinely what I want to work towards and what I visualize for my life. But in that space, it was not that. It didn't serve that goal that I have. And when I realized, and mind you, this whole time, I'm always being asked, what are my goals? My goal is to be a stay-at-home mom. My goal is exactly that. And like, financial freedom allows for a life that I want to create. Like, yeah, I want a G-Wagon. It's not the end of the world. I don't give a fuck if I have a G-Wagon or not, truthfully. What I care about is people who love me, the people I love being taken care of and that they're safe. What I care about is serving God and honoring Him the best way that I can. And in my time, over time, I found as I worked harder towards this surface level goal, the further away from God I was getting. And I had to recalibrate and kind of think like, damn, I don't want that. So I started to work more towards my relationship and my faith. And in that, a lot of things were exposed. That side quest with that person wasn't he was not the prince that I was supposed to be. given as the princess in the castle. For those of you who understand that analogy, you get it. For those of you who don't, I'll drop the link in the, at least you can listen to it. But side quest failed. All right, now you have the wherewithal to recognize, oh my gosh, I'm not in alignment with what I'm working towards. I actually don't care about owning this thing, this place, and whatever. Let's say 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, I have that end goal. I have the G-Wagon. I have the big house. I used to say I want a fucking castle with a moat around it, which I still do. I have the house. I have the moat. I have the G-Wagon. But what I kept realizing was I was working towards that, and I would come home to dogs and cats. I wasn't coming home to a family. Whoa. All right. And I felt this. This is my gut feeling. Ladies, trust your gut. Men, trust your gut too. But really, as a woman, trust your gut. Okay. This is a very hard decision. I feel like I'm letting people down. I feel like I'm failing myself because I've been working towards something that I said I wanted. And over time you grow, and over time you learn what is and what isn't a goal. I outgrew that. And so I make the hard decision. But in that decision, I also trusted and believed, I had this expectation, 6 a.m.er, that I'm still going to be given the same unconditional energy and love. And this is a pattern that I've recognized in my life, where I give more than what I receive. I had dirtbag friends in high school that I invested more in, and maybe they have a different perspective. Maybe they have a different experience. But in my experience, I just tried my best to live with love and operate out of that. And like, when I say love, I mean like, I'm the friend that you can call when you need something. I'm the friend that's going to protect you when you need something. I'm the friend that is going to be a safe space when you need it. I might be the friend that also clowns you and cooks you and like jokes around, but like, I'm not going to be malicious. I'm not going to hurt you. Before I worked there, I got robbed of $2,000 worth of tree whenever I was trapping. And like, this was somebody that I thought was my family. Fucked up. Patterns get repeated. So now I have to realize, ooh, these patterns are more of a reflection of what I'm doing. And that reflection is that I'm far away from God. I'm not prioritizing my relationship with God. I'm not opening up my Bible. I'm not going to church. I'm not investing in fellowship. That's when the light bulb clicked. After I had left, after I had not been going to church for a while, after I hadn't been opening my Bible, I just sat down and I was like, damn, that's it. I think what's defeating about the whole situation is that 5 p.m.er, the grateful one in me, has really struggled to be grateful for an experience when the flesh is so easy to compare. And like, asking for help as the 5 p.m.er is a lot easier than when you're in the 6 a.m.er, right? And like, being a hyper independent woman, I have always struggled to ask for help. Whatever that looks like. It could be even fucking getting a ride. Like, I'd rather walk than get a ride, you know? I think the hardest part about the whole thing is I was a 5 p.m.er and have been the 5 p.m.er that I, at my core, believe I am for the last 4 years. And the disappointment of not feeling that same energy, unconditional love, reciprocation of support and friendship. Oh, defeating. In high school, I didn't give a fuck. After that happened and I was trapping, didn't give a fuck. But this was like kind of groundbreaking because it shifted a lot of things. So going back to the conversation of my friend saying he thought my compliment was surface level. For anybody who I ever met over the last 4 years, I hope you know genuinely from the bottom of my heart, any energy, time I invested so far from surface level. But when you share a space with people who operate under conditions you get lumped into that category. And I don't want to be lumped in that category. I don't want to be lumped in the category of a slimeball salesperson. I don't want to be lumped in the category of somebody who is fake with their check-ins or anything. So, oh my God, I've met a lot of people over the years. I've helped a lot of people over the years. And there is nothing more fulfilling and cup filling than seeing somebody who just didn't know where to turn. They finally made a step in that direction, whether it was towards me, whether it was towards a coworker, but they make that step and they're able to change their life for the better. Nothing beats that. And I think that's why I feel so called for motherhood, because that's the greatest, in my opinion, that's the greatest gift from God, is popping out little humans and raising them and help guiding them to be great big humans. Oh man, being unconditional comes with pain and hurt, and you have to learn how to grow and operate through it. I don't harbor animosity. I did for a while. I was very upset, very angry, very angry. And I'm not really angry anymore. I'm grateful. I'm grateful for all the people I've been able to meet over the years. And I learned a lot, I learned a lot of discipline and structure. I learned what does serve me. I learned what doesn't serve me. I learned that I can't be a 5 a.m.er all the time. I learned that I fucking don't like reading books. I never have. Fuck that. Honestly. I'll walk on the treadmill. I'll reading on the treadmill is great. But taking time, no. For a while there, I lost myself into trying to be what I thought everybody else wanted me to be, instead of just being who little Tiana needs me to be. And little Tiana needs me to be the unconditional, loving, caring, supportive, protective friend and person that little Tiana needed. Turning to God in this time, I'm not the perfect Christian. I don't claim to be. But turning to God has really humbled me in saying, you're not entitled to what you see other people getting, silly. Your time will come. But you have to put in the work. And I'm learning that me putting in the work isn't me grind culture, hustle, hustle, hustle. Yeah, I mean, in today's economy, you feel me? You kind of have to. But if I had $1 million right now, not all of my problems would be solved. A good fucking chunk would, but not all of them, I could go on and on more about some grievances, but it's not about that. This is just a reminder that operating unconditionally is what we're called to do, even when it's hard. And if it was easy, everybody would do it and we'd have like a great utopian society, but we don't. I think that's why for this time I've been off Instagram, it's helped me kind of like come back to me, because social media is such a wasteland of consume, consume, consume. And even on social media, you're just consuming what you want to perceive from people. When you're in it, when you're in the mud with people and you see how they operate online versus how they are in person, you're like, oh man, I see it. There was a small sliver where I was asked to not portray certain content because it wasn't reflective of what I should be doing. Let's just say that. And I'm kind of a yes man sometimes, so I was like, all right. Even though the 5 a.m.er was kind of like, what the fuck, bro? You're gonna tell me that I can't post something that I think is funny? What? All right. And it was doing numbers too, dickhead. I digress. I give grace to myself because for all the energy I put in, the 5 a.m.er in me looks around and is like, what do I have to show for it? You know? But the 6 a.m.er, I'm getting dyslexic with my numbers. The entitled one in me looks around and is like, what do I have to show for the last 4 years? But the 6 p.m., the 5 p.m., god damn it, dyslexic. The 5 p.m.er in me, the grateful one, is grateful that I did it and experienced this in my young adulthood. I got so much time left. My life could change in 60 days. That is like so weightlifting. And I'm like excited to get back on Instagram and be me, show me, do me, and like not feel bad about it. I keep looking at this plant and it's growing anew. My monstera is growing a new bud. My second monstera, I've got 2 in here. I just feel alive again. It's nice. I've been struggling to figure out how I want to talk about this. And hopefully like it helps somebody understand a little bit more of like, if you're a person who cares, if you're a person who is a giver and you operate out of love, I hope you're able to look at how the 6 a.m.er and the 5 p.m.er correlate to your life. I hope you're able to understand that boundaries are very necessary, and sometimes they're hard to draw, but the important part is sticking to them. And for me, that looked like leaving a place that I really loved to learn over time that didn't serve me the way God has things planned for me. It did at that time, you know? Life comes in seasons, and that season was just over, and there's nothing wrong with that. But at the end of the day, do not feel bad for being an unconditional person. Do not feel bad. Your struggle is yours. Everybody is going to struggle. Even the conditional people have struggles. The people who are on Instagram showing that their life is perfect, I hate to tell you, my boy, but it's not. Just trust that what you're doing is what you should be doing. And if you don't feel that, remove yourself and objectively look at your life. And there's probably some things you got to be accountable for. Lord knows I have a lot of things I need to be accountable and have been accountable for in my life. Take that time. Sit with your emotions. Don't act out of emotions. I am a victim of doing that from time to time. But I think it's because I feel things so heavy, I want other people to feel what I'm feeling, you know? Is it right? Is it wrong? I don't know. Trust your intuition. Connect yourself spiritually. Whatever that looks like. Whatever that looks like. But know that energy is real. God is energy. God is love. He is everywhere. Seek it. Find him. And that'll help you give grace better. It's like looking at your abuser and not getting an apology from them, whatever that abuse may look like. It's a hard pill to swallow, but swallowing it will help you let it sit in your stomach and trust that intuition and trust that God within you a lot better. At least in my experience. Yeah, I'm fidgeting. This is a hard thing to talk about, but I think it's an important thing to talk about. Mega important. If you're the black sheep, keep being him. Don't fucking lose yourself and mold yourself. And don't be a chameleon. I've been a chameleon. Not worth it. If you're loud, don't let them tell you to not be loud. Take up space as a woman. And don't do it shamefully. Have boundaries and stick to them. Operate in what aligns with you and your soul and your spirit. Feed your soul, feed your spirit. It starts with the mind and the mental, and then the physical will come. The last thing I want to leave you with: never apologize for protecting yourself. Ever. The people who love you and understand and want to understand, they will be by your side. You don't owe anyone an explanation for what that looks like in protection. Man, tea time with T. Number 2, unconditional being in existence. That is what the road less traveled looks like.